Councillor Cam.
Well, Mr Chair, I hear what Fred's saying, and I suppose my concern, and it's a debatable point, and we want to move on, but is that the increasing in this around the culture of innovation, entrepreneurship, skilled and education continues to rise, and the leverage spend and sponsorship is not a big component of that. So I think the rhetoric some time ago was that this was all kind of PPPs and self-funding and everything else, but there is still a demand on ratepayer, an increasing demand on ratepayer, and the leverage spend sponsorship seems to be a very small part of that. It's certainly not an equal partner when you look at the numbers that have been provided. But again, debatable points, and I just wanted to raise my observation that ATEED were heading down this track and certainly committed to major events and tourism, but where the spend increases were really falling were in around this category. And I suppose, like any other ratepayer, look forward to seeing the returns on investment.
Absolutely. Councillor Denise.
Just a quick comment. We can definitely understand Councillor Brewer's concerns around making sure that we do things prudently and right around here. I was one who attended the opening of the grid, and there were some very big investor names in that room. So undoubtedly innovation and supporting innovation is a big part of the strategy for our Auckland economy. I very much wholeheartedly support this particular additional funding for the grid and wish it well in its future. We certainly need those startups to do well and to bring a return back to Auckland.
Very good. Took the words right out of my mouth. I'll move this recommendation. All those in favour say aye. 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 Against? Aye. Right, so we've done those two. Move on to environmental management and regulation. Thanks very much, Brett. Back to the grid. Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I had an amendment that I sent through to go there as well.
Yes, I've seen that.
Thank you.
Would you second that?
Against 3B.
Okay, right, just yeah, just what I want to do is, unless anyone's got anything to say with C, D and E, remember E was the reinstate, having recognised that we were the only other council in New Zealand except for Timbuktu or something or other who wasn't in it. I think it was your idea, wasn't it, Linda?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
Though, Mr. Chairman, it's not really reinstating it, it's taking it out of other parts of the budget.
Yeah.
Which, it's not really, that's not reinstating it then, is it? It is putting it back, but it's not putting the money back. It's saying find the money from other places in a really small environmental budget in the first place. My concern, and that's why my amendment, which I had sent through, but isn't up there.
Okay. Well, it's reinstate the budget from saving.
Oh, yes, it is there now. Thank you. Yeah.
Just do that.
I'm happy to second.
But what? Yeah.
No, I'm just about to.
That's one.
Yeah, no, I'm not going there yet.
We're not going to council.
I just want to go back to the first three. We'll deal with those first because there are two other additions. Right, now, Councillor Wayne, you want to speak on C, D or E?
D.
Yes, way you go.
Okay. I'm entirely supportive of retrofit your home. Having said that, I would suggest that at some time, maybe earlier rather than later, we actually offset the debt. That is, the private sector could pick up the debt. And my understanding is that there are parties that would be willing to do that. So I put a question mark over these words around maximum debt exposure of 35 million. And I'd like to see some flexibility around the words so that if we can offset the debt, then we can continue to grow retrofit your home. And I'd invite Matthew to perhaps make a suggestion around what those words might be.
That's the one that came through from Kathy.
I think this is
Councillor Wayne,
important,
I think
Mr
we'll pick
Mayor.
up the context of it. You know, I think what we've got here is we want to get the budget
Did
back
that
in
the
there.
other
There's
day.
obviously going to be continuing discussion.
That's no
And so we
money
can deal with the detail of it through your leadership offline.
from somewhere
I
else.
think trying to,
Well, once we enact something like those words, we're closing options off, and that's my concern.
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, actually the staff have made the commitment to deliver this. So, you know, I think at the very least, we didn't lose the budget. Matt?
Happy to comment. I mean, through Mr Chairman, I'd encourage you to keep this simple. I mean, staff have an obligation to just, you know, give the best value we can. If we think there's better value to be given by having an external provider provide this, then so be it. I think we'd all have our eyes wide open to the fact that they would be charging much healthier margins than we're able to charge by accommodating this through the targeted rate. And, you know, if something was brought to the table, that's what you'd have to look at. It's pretty simple. I mean, really this is there because staff have taken the opportunity, because it's, you know, budget reset time, just to check the parameters here. The Finance Committee members will be aware the folk are doing so well here, they've had to come back each year because demand's pretty strong, and so we've needed to extend the budget. And really this is just keeping things tidy and giving those staff operating this area some clarity around the program over the next few years.
I understand that. I guess my concern is this is a very successful project. It's unfortunate if we hit a brick wall because of something that we've imposed around our debt exposure. If the private sector picks it up, and they certainly do that in Australia and plenty of other places, then we don't have that limitation, and that's the only way we're going to be able to grow it.
Yeah, okay, so I've heard your concern. I don't think that we need to change the recommendation in terms of getting the budget back to a space where you can have those further discussions. Are there any other, Councillor George?
I just want to know, I'm going to vote against that D, so how do we do that? We're going to
Oh, I'll just do it one by one then.
Note it.
I just want to say that, I'm going to say that I don't really, I think this is getting far greater and larger as a part of council operations than I ever envisaged it was going to get. You know, I was just watching Fair go last night. I think Auckland Council were in the gun with some problem in relation to one of these things where the house had been sold and the new owner wasn't aware that there was this caveat on the property, and so I just think that you know, we've got to be careful. What else are we going to get into after this? And I just, well, I'm going to vote against it. So.
Okay. Do you want to say anything about that, Dean?
Only to say that you've got a choice here. The council's, through its previous policy position, has decided to provide some helpful intervention in this way.
Yeah.
I think the cap on debt's the right thing to do, which Matthew's already talked to. If other opportunities come for us to expand this program, maintain our debt ceiling, but leverage off private sector debt, then that's an opportunity. I know that you're talking to that, Councillor Walker. In terms of the Fair Go program, clearly there's some tidying up to be done at the transaction level between buyer and seller, and that obligation wasn't communicated at the right time and the right way by the lawyers. So we're disappointed in that as much as you are.
Okay. Right, so we've got, I'll put C, D and E separately. Move C, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, passed. Move D, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
No,
Note that.
record my vote, please.
Yes, put send to, all those in favour of E say aye.
Aye.
Against? Well done. Right, now we've got two additions.
And that should be just move very quickly through, I think.
Right,
Record.
this is from Denise, Councillor Denise.
So, colleagues, Mr Mayor, this is a chance to answer the perennial question of, is the Manukau Harbour the poor cousin to the Waitemata? And that exact phrase has been used countless times on various items that have come up, not just in regards to, of course, what I'm suggesting here, which is the hydrodynamic modelling, but in regards to walkways, transport, all sorts of issues, anything that touches in and around the Manukau Harbour. So we all know that there's a Manukau Harbour Forum that operates, including 9 local boards, 8 local boards in their advocacy for the long-term plan have asked for the specific study, the hydrodynamic modelling study. Now, what it does is basically recognise, yes, the significance of the harbour, but also determine its future management, because you need to know what you need to know about what's going on in the harbour, and we do not know. So it's the forerunner to a marine spatial plan, something that we'd all like. But what I've done here with the wording is give some comfort. Quite frankly, I'd like to take out work on a feasibility study to cost and scope and just say prioritise work on the modelling study. But there's a degree of comfort here perhaps for councillors that would like to know exactly how much will the study cost, what would it look like, how would it be undertaken. Now, I understand that some of that scoping has already taken place via the Manukau Harbour Forum, so in that case this would happen quite quickly. But if we wish to leave that in, then what this is calling for is for that feasibility study to be undertaken. Just by way of signalling, Jill Naismith, who's the chairman of the Manukau Harbour Forum, mentioned in her advocacy chat with us that it's in the vicinity of 440k over 2 years. So that's an initial indication that I'll give you. There was I wouldn't call it a discrepancy, but a couple of local boards had different figures in their advocacy. So I'll just mention that. But again, this particular amendment is asking to get the cost and the scope of doing this undertaken. And part B is with a view to approving funding for the study as part of the 2016-17 annual plan. I'm delighted to have Councillor Filipaina as my second, and I know that there'll be many councillors that are attached to one of those 9 local boards, and our friends over on the Waitemata side that think that it might be the Manukau's day in the sun too. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Councillor Penn?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I really think on this one, I'd like to see the words feasibility study taken out and just go straight to the hydrodynamic modelling. I mean, that's what they were asked for. Yep. The words feasibility study to me send shivers down my spine, because it usually means consultants and reports and more reports and consultants, and any budget that's there then gets gobbled up. So we know that this needs to be done. We know that once the marine spatial plan for the Hauraki Gulf is finished, which it should be later this year, this will be the next one. So if we've got the ability to do this, and as Councillor Crum said, all the boards came in and asked for it. They all had slightly different figures, but it wasn't, in the scheme of things, a lot of money. This will allow us to then start moving on the marine spatial plan once we've got that. And we can't do anything until we get this. Very sensible. I would just ask Councillor Crum if she would mind taking out a feasibility study, because to me that's just another layer of cost that we probably don't need.
Together with second, our Councillor Filipaina, agree.
Conviviality is breaking out around the chamber. Dr. Roger.
Thank you, Your Worship. We've asked our marine modelling specialists in REMU to comment on this. Excuse me. Their advice is that the cost of a hydrodynamic modelling study of the Manukau Harbour would be $500,000. Well, first of all, there is no budget for that, because as you're aware, when my division came back to you in your request to find savings, we said no more marine spatial planning after the Hauraki Gulf Marine Spatial Plan is finished. Secondly, our specialists do not believe this is the most effective tool in terms of addressing issues around the future planning of the Manukau Harbour. And what we had proposed was that once the marine spatial plan for the Hauraki Gulf is finished, we would then refresh the Manukau Harbour Action Plan as a way of drawing on what's been done previously and coming back to you with advice on what we think is the most effective way of going forward and addressing the issues around Manukau Harbour.
All right. Okay, so I think, Roger,
Have some money.
given that piece of advice, which politically is not overly helpful,
No.
Yes, Minister Sprinkles. Summer.
I've heard
Thought we'd
better
have
advice from
removed
that
it. Might
table
save some money.
in recent weeks. So what I think's possible here, because I have...
Feasibility back in?
Well, no. What I think is possible here, because clearly there's... Hang on, Michael. Clearly there's an issue around a little bit more communication being required. Is that I suspect we'll be back here in the morning. Well, hang on, Councillor Cam. And at the very least, I would have thought maybe a chance for you to sit back and reflect off your advice and spend a bit of time with the mover and the seconder to see what, in fact, could be worked out.
Happy to do that.
And if we don't make tomorrow morning, then, look, over the next hour or so, I have a sense that practical, pragmatic minds will come to a reasonable conclusion. Can I offer you that challenge, Roger?
Certainly, Your Worship.
So perhaps we'll just let that one lie and we can come back to that at an appropriate time.
Thank you.
Okay, now it might not solve itself, but we can take a little bit of time.